Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Watson, and I want to welcome you into the Man Cave. So, in the Man Cave, we'll be talking about sports at all times. We'll be talking about football, basketball, and any other sports topics that you may want to chop it up about. Just email me at themancavechris@gmail.com with any sports topics that you want to discuss, and who knows, we may invite you into the Man Cave to chop it up with me. So, welcome to the Man Cave, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get started. How's everybody doing today? We're back in the Man Cave with Chris. We're going to do some NFC football today. We're going to get right into it. Just a quick caveat. I'm not by myself, though. I got my friends with me. I got my brother and my brothers from other mothers that are here with me, going to help me out today. So, but first we're going to talk about, there's a lot of things going on. You know, we don't necessarily know that we're going to actually have a season this year, but we're going to talk about it as if we're going to go through without a hitch, have a little fun, talk a little junk, and just have a good time today. So first off, that's going to be helping me today is Eric Johnson. Eric, say hey to the people.
What's going on, people? How about them Cowboys?
Oh yeah, we got a Cowboy fan in the house, but that's all right. We love them anyway. All right, and now we got Mike Blatnick, who's going to rep his team. What you got to say to the people?
What's going on, people? We're going to see how things are going to go in the D this year and see how the Detroit Lions will go ahead and shock the world with no fans in the stands and get into the Super Bowl.
All right. Representing the Detroit Lions. All right. And of course, last but certainly not least, I got my brother Chuck, Raider Nation. I'm sure he's going to talk about it. What you got to say to the people, Chuck?
How's it going, everybody? How about that Raider Nation? Getting ready to take over Vegas. So
Las Vegas.
Looking forward, yes.
All right. That's going to be good. And of course, I'm a Bears fan. Bear down. We're going to do things right this year. So very excited. So we're going to break things down off into segments today. So the first thing we got is going to rep your squad. So we got 2 minutes. I'm going to pull up my stopwatch here because we got some talkative people here. So we want to make sure that we keep everything in a timely manner. So we're going to start off with Eric. Eric, rep your squad.
Again, it's going to be Cowboy Nation, and I think for the NFC East, I think the Cowboys have done some really good things in all season. Number one, starting by getting a new coach, Mike McCarthy, being the head coach this year. I think it's going to bring a lot of discipline that's been missing over the last few years with the Cowboys. In the offseason, I think they made some good moves for free agent signings. Again, they picked up Jerome McCoy, defensive tackle. They also picked up Clinton Ha Dix that played for McCarthy in Green Bay in the draft. I think they did equally as well. Of course, they got the great wideout CeeDee Lamb, who I think is going to be very special this year and do big things. And also they picked up Darian Thompson at safety. So I think that was some of the stuff they were lacking last year on the defensive side. And I think what they've done in the offseason is really going to prepare them to make this championship run that's going to happen this year. So real excited about the Cowboys as I am every year, but you got to be in it to win it. And I think they're going to be in it to win it this year as long as they can stay healthy. So that's repping my squad.
All right. Good job. All right, Matt, Mike Blatnick, Detroit Lions, rep your squad.
All right, everybody. Help everybody that's ready for the big football season getting upon us. And this will be the year that the Lions start to restore the roar. Finally, hopefully have healthy Matt Stafford throughout the entire season. Definitely last year hurt them a lot with him going down. And I think also with Detroit's offseason moves by bringing in Jeff Okudah to replace Darius Slay. Hopefully that will help shore the cornerback field. And the defensive back should be good with Desmond Trufant bringing him in as well as the addition of Coleman. So they should have a good trio of defensive backs there and cornerbacks to cover things on the defensive side. I think it'll also help out a lot that they finally brought in a new offensive coordinator, bringing in Darrell Bevell from Seattle. So hopefully he'll be able to have a healthy squad to turn things around this year. And then bringing in also DeAndre Swift from the University of Georgia. I think that'll be a good 1-2 punch backfield with him and Kerryon Johnson to help run the ball and take some pressure off of Matt Stafford to help keep him healthy throughout the whole year. So hopefully this will be a good season, that they'll stay healthy and restore the roar and get things turned back around in Detroit.
All right. Good job. All right. And Chuck, Raider Nation, rep your squad.
Raider Nation, I think we got a very promising year coming this year. I was very satisfied with our offseason. We had a very quiet offseason, but I think probably one of the best in the NFL. We picked up Kwiatkowski out of Chicago, who my brother here knows very well, and he says he's one of the better players. And looking at the statistics, it seems that way. And as well as Corey Littleton out of the Rams. Mm-hmm. And that level of my defense was a question mark. We addressed the back half of the defense with the draft. We picked up Damon Arnett, and we also picked up Demarius Randall from Green Bay, who I really like. He can play both slot and he can play safety and corner, so he's a very flexible player. Dealing with the Antonio Brown situation last year, that set us back, and so we were scrambling to in the wide receiver room after losing him with all of that. But we addressed that in the offseason through the draft with Ruggs out of Alabama, as well as Lynn Bowden and Brian Edwards, two I call sleepers in this draft. And I think we strengthened that offense significantly. We still have the team has been together long enough, and we're going to have enough cohesiveness, I believe, with Mayock and Gruden to take that next step. So that's the good news. The bad news, we're in a division with them bad boys in Kansas City. So I think we have closed the gap, but it's yet to see if it's going to reach its fruition.
All right, good job. And finally, I'm going to rep my squad, the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears are really just one season away from a playoff berth a couple of years ago. Took a step back, and a lot of people blame the quarterback play, which is understood. Quarterback play was not good, but I don't put that all on Trubisky. Actually, I put a lot of that on the coaching staff. I think they tried to make Trubisky into something that he really wasn't. He's a quarterback that likes to move. They tried to keep him in the pocket. Hurt him the first half of the year. Second half of the year, he looked much better. They brought in Nick Foles to challenge him. But I actually still kind of believe in Trubisky. I think Trubisky has talent that has just been untapped. We have one of the most underrated wide receivers in Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson doesn't get the credit he deserved. Basically, with an offense that was as bad as it was, he had 98 catches and 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. So I think that can only get better. I think Anthony Miller takes a step forward. I think that our running game will be much better. I think David Montgomery will take a step forward, as well as Tariq Cohen being a Army Swiss knife. He does everything. So I like his game. The defense, I think, is steady. I think as long as we get good offensive play, I think Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith and Kyle Fuller and Eddie Jackson, I think all those guys are Pro Bowlers. And I think they have a chance to get a little rest this year and with better offensive play, I think the Bears will be right back in the mix. So, guys, that's me repping my squad. I appreciate you guys. You guys did a great job. We're going to go on to our next segment. In this segment, we're going to break down each division. I asked each guy to look at a different division in the NFC and do a quick breakdown of how they think that division is going to go. And we're going to start off with the NFC North. I think the North is going to be a very tough division. But Mike is going to do a breakdown of the NFC North. Let's hear what you got.
All right, everybody. Well, when you look at the NFC North, we already talked about my Detroit Lions, but let's talk off first with the Minnesota Vikings. They lost 2 big secondary players basically this year, but I think their defense will still be solid. But it's going to be a big loss for them losing Stephon Diggs as a wide receiver for them. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do to fill that slot. They did draft Justin Jefferson out of LSU, which could be a solid fill-in for him. But as we know, he's still a rookie. So we'll see exactly what happens there. They also, in taking place for the 2 big losses that they had, they used their 1st, 3rd, and 5th round draft picks all on defense. So we'll see exactly how that pays off for them. However, the one big hole that I see for the Minnesota Vikings this year is, one, they've got no backup really for Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins goes down there. They are in a world of hurt because they've got nobody else there that can back him up really. They're still talking about them trying to sign a veteran backup quarterback in the offseason, but nothing has happened so far. I think there's also going to be some uncertainty in the backfield there with, even though Dalvin Cook's a solid player, they still haven't given him an extension. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see whether or not he goes down again with injury like he did last year. They got some good backup fill-ins for him, but we'll see exactly how that turns out. I see that the Minnesota Vikings will probably lose Kirk Cousins at some point in the season, so that's why I predict them to finish the season 7-9. When you look at the Green Bay Packers, I think that a lot of folks were really shocked in the offseason, particularly in the NFL draft, especially for people that were big Packers fans. I think they really shocked the world when they took Jordan Love in the first round. I think everybody started shaking their heads because they knew they needed some defensive help as well as some wide receiver help to take some pressure off of Aaron Rodgers, and they did nothing to do that. Then they drafted in the second round a running back, taking A.J. Dillon out of Boston College. And I think that just really left some people shaking their heads because their defense last year was hurting big time. They also lost Balaga at tackle in the offseason, and they made a signing of Wagner to bring him in to try and backfill that position. But Wagner, they're paying him big bucks, and if that doesn't pay off, they could be in some deep trouble. So they really didn't do anything to add depth on the defensive side of the ball. Their defense was really hurting last year, and they still really have zero depth at wide receiver, which a lot of the folks, I think, for the Green Bay Packers were hoping to get some help to help out Aaron Rodgers. As we all know, he's not a spring chicken anymore, so he's probably got a few more years left in him, and we'll see exactly how they play out. But I foresee the Green Bay Packers to turn out the season 8-8 with all their Swiss cheese out there in Green Bay. So now turning over to the Chicago Bears and our beloved Bears for Chris and the rest of Bears Nation out there. But, the big trade that they made for Nick Foles definitely put some pressure on Trubisky here in the offseason. So we'll see exactly how things are going to go. I do think that they didn't use Trubisky accurately last year, but it'll be interesting to see how they lock that in. However, they did do a lot of things to shore up their defense even deeper than they already are by signing Robert Quinn to a 5-year deal. And then they also brought in Artie Burns from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a solid player on defense that led the Steelers in tackles a couple years ago. So it should just deepen up their defense that much further. The one thing that I think left a lot of Chicago Bears fans shaking their heads over was signing up Jimmy Graham along with every other tight end that they already had out there. So I think they were at one point in time on the roster, folks had about 8 or 9 tight ends on their team at one time. So it should be interesting to see exactly how he plays off because he didn't really do much last season. And we'll see exactly if he can pay off for them in the offseason with the signing of him. They still also have a lot of questions at wide receiver. I do think Anthony Miller will step up big time this year, and we'll do a lot to help them out. And I know there's a lot of talk about them still trying to add a veteran cornerback in the offseason here. So we'll see exactly how that plays out for them. But Chicago Bears, I see them going 9-7. I think that defense is going to hold tight, and I think they've got now a solid backup in Nick Foles, or depending on who's going to be the starting quarterback, they've got somebody good to fill in there either way. And then we finish off with my Detroit Lions. I see the Detroit Lions are, as I mentioned earlier, they lost Darius Slay. That was a big loss for them in the offseason. But, drafting Jeff Okudah in the first round out of Ohio State, I think that will help out. We also went out and picked up Desmond Trufant as well as Coleman. That will help shore up our defensive secondary. And I think it will be solid out there. I know a lot of folks out there were surprised by a lot of offseason signings that we had by ex-New England Patriots. Not much of a surprise with Matt Patricia as head coach, but, this is going to be the make or break year for Matt Patricia as well as Bob Quinn at GM, because if they don't turn things around this year, I see both of them being gone in Detroit, because this will be the last year as long as Matt Stafford can stay healthy. That should be very good. And then obviously DeAndre Swift that we picked up from Georgia in the backfield. I think with him and Kerryon Johnson, that will definitely give us a solid offensive 1-2 punch in the backfield. And then we've got Kenny Golladay and the rest of the wide receiver slots that should go ahead and really step up this year. But I think that will take Detroit onto a 10-6 season and winning the division. That's for the NFC North, and that's how I've got it. And so, Chris, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. Good job. So now, since we're going north, south, east, west, I have been tasked with the NFC South. So I'm going to start my breakdown with the South with the Atlanta Falcons. They made a couple of big signings in the offseason. They agreed to a deal with Hayden Hurst at tight end to replace Austin Hooper. Hooper was a big-time tight end signed with the Cleveland Browns in the offseason, so they needed to replace him. Matt Ryan does like to use the tight end quite frequently, and I think Hayden Hurst will have a breakout season. He came over from the Baltimore Ravens, was a first-round pick So he still has I think he has a lot in the tank. I think he'll be a big pickup for them. Also, of course, they signed Todd Gurley at running back to replace Freeman, who's a free agent, so which he hasn't signed. Got some question marks with that one. Just don't, if he's 100%, he's one of the best backs in the league if he's 100%, but there's still a lot of question marks about that knee. Is he 100%? Will he be able to carry the load for 16 games? I don't know. But if he can, that would be a big time deal for them. They also signed wide receiver Laquan Treadwell from the Minnesota Vikings, who hadn't really done anything. He's looking to kind of rejuvenate his career, or actually start his career, because he hadn't really done much since he's been in the league. But I think he may be able to get in, maybe a third or fourth receiver with Julio Jones, arguably the best wide receiver in the league. Calvin Ridley is a big time receiver. So he'll fit in there somewhere and try and get some reps. But I think their offense is going to be dynamic. The offense is always dynamic. That's usually not their problem on offense. If their defense can step up, that's going to be a big deal for them. And also in the draft, I think their best draft pick was their second round pick, Marlon Davidson, the defensive tackle from Auburn. I don't know if y'all remember this, if y'all saw his interview on NFL Network where he said that he loves playing football because he can legally beat up people. So he has that mindset of, I'm coming to hurt you. I'm going to hurt you, and then I'm going to laugh about it. I'm going to laugh in your face, and I'm going to hurt you again. He's a demon out there. He's a bad boy. He goes sideline to sideline very quickly, and a quick penetrator on the inside. So I think Atlanta will be okay. I just think they're in a tough division. I've got the Atlanta Falcons going 9-7 in the South, which I think may compete for a wild card spot, but we'll have to see. The next team I have is the New Orleans Saints. The Saints made couple of big moves that I don't think got enough attention. I think the sign of Emmanuel Sanders is going to be huge opposite Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas caught probably 75-80% of passes to the wide receiver position last year. I think the second leading receiver may have been Ted Ginn at the time with maybe 20 or 30 catches, something like that. So to have somebody opposite Michael Thomas is big. I think he's going to be put up some big numbers with Drew Brees, and he'll do a good job. They also re-signed Malcolm Jenkins at safety. I think that was a big re-signing with them to secure that backfield. They got some young safeties back there. A couple of years ago, made the big mistake against the Minnesota Vikings, allowing Stephon Diggs that long touchdown. That won't happen with Michael Jenkins in the backfield. So the Saints will be tough. The best draft pick, they didn't have many draft picks this year, but Cesar Ruiz is the one that's going to be big for them on the interior of that offensive line. He's going to keep Drew Brees upright. And as long as Drew Brees has time, he's going to tear you apart. I think they win that division. I think they're going to be 12-4. So I like them in the NFC South. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We know who their big signings are. Bringing in Tom Brady and also Rob Gronkowski. That's going to be big for them to have a quarterback that's steady. You don't have to worry about all the interceptions from Jameis Winston, who gave you big plays. He definitely, led the NFL in yardage last year, but he also led the league in picks. So you kind of, with him, you take the good with the bad. With Tom Brady, you're going to get a lot more consistency. I don't think he's going to put up the yards. He doesn't really do a lot of 5-7 step drops. He doesn't go deep as much as he used to. He likes to go across the middle. So will he be able to use those wide receivers? Because the wide receivers he has like to go deep. Mike Evans and opposite him, Godwin, they like to go deep. So can he mesh with those receivers and have the time to go deep? There's a question mark about the left tackle there. If he's going to actually play this year, he has a new child coming or something like that, so he may not play. And that's Brady's blind side. So that's going to be tough. As far as their draft picks, their most important draft pick, who I think was an underrated draft pick, is Antoine Winfield, the DB. Chuck probably remembers, y'all probably remember his dad, Antoine Whitfield Sr., who played a lot of years with the Vikings. He was a really good defensive back, and his son is just as good. His son is a speedster, kind of short, but he's a ball hawk. So from Minnesota, so went to University of Minnesota. So he's going to be very important to solidify that secondary. They gave up a lot of points. I think he helps to keep that on the wraps. So I think Tampa Bay will go 10-6. I think they're going to start off slow, but I think they're slowly going to gel and kind of going to get back in the race and push for a wild card spot. And finally, I have the Carolina Panthers. Big free agent signings. Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. He's going to be important for them. If he can get back to what he was before he got injured, he was on the verge of breaking out in Minnesota before he messed up his knee. I think he was going to be one of the better quarterbacks. He doesn't have a strong arm, but he's very accurate in the short game and in the mid-range game. And I think he's going to bring some consistency to that quarterback position. Not much of a runner, but I think he's steady based on what they had last year with Will Grier and some of the other quarterbacks that they were playing with last year. I think he's going to be a much-needed upgrade. With that running back with Christian McCaffrey, you dump it off. He's a man-child. So he's going to carry the load. I look for him to be a 1,000 guy, 1,000 yards receiving, 1,000 yards rushing this year coming up. So he's going to be important for them. But overall, they also signed Farrell Cooper, who's a return guy, wide receiver. No big splashes really other than Bridgewater, but Farrell Cooper is going to be an underrated guy. He's on special teams. He's going to make plays. He makes things happen. So I think that's going to be a decent offense. Defense, I don't really see a whole lot from them. I don't see them being really as competitive in that division. As far as draft picks, they did pick up Derek Brown. Derek Brown is another defensive tackle from Auburn. And I'm not an Auburn fan, really, but Derek Brown is a man-child. Derek Brown is a Warren Sapp type of guy that can penetrate really quickly and also go sideline to sideline. Big-time player. They also signed or drafted cornerback Troy Pride Jr. from Notre Dame, who's a 5'11" cornerback that's rangy. He can make plays in the secondary. I think that's going to be a pickup for them. But I don't see them doing much in this particular year. I see them going 6-10. I think they'll bring up the rear in that division. But I think it will be very competitive. So that's my breakdown of the NFC South. And now we're going to go to Eric in the NFC East. Let's hear what you got.
All right, appreciate it, fellas. Again, just talking about the NFC East, I don't think it's the strongest division right now in the NFC. There's probably two teams that are probably top heavy, and then two teams that I think that still need a lot of work. So I'm going to start with who I think is probably going to finish last in the division. I think that's going to be the Redskins. I just think they still just got a lot of work to do. They don't have right now a solid quarterback to lead the team. We got Haskins out there. Rivera traded for Kyle Allen, who he brought over from the Panthers. And then you still got Alex Smith that wants to make some type of comeback from his injury that he had a few years ago. They have a decent defense. They did pick up who I think who was the best defensive end in the draft, which is Chase Young from Ohio State. So they got him coming in. That should definitely make an impact right off the gate. But I just don't think they are ready to make any strides that's going to get them moving in the right direction. Running back, I think is still a little question mark for them. I think they picked up Peyton Barber at running back, and I think they also signed J.D. McKissick. And they still have the old man there. I think Adrian Peterson is still there too. So, just really not solid at running back. In the draft, again, they picked up Kendall Fuller at cornerback, but I just don't think that's going to be enough. I think they're still about 2 to 3 years out of really making the playoffs at all. I'm going to expect them to go 6-10 and finish last in the NFC East. Next, I'll go to who's going to be next to last, and I think that's going to be the Giants. Again, Giants didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason. One of the things that they did make, though, is that they need some protection for their quarterback, Daniel Jones. They picked up Andrew Thomas as the offensive tackle in the Giants. That'll help out on that offensive line a little bit. They picked up, again, an Alabama boy, Xavier McKinney, safety. I think that'll help them. Running back, they're solid with Saquon Barkley, but they also signed Dion Lewis to give them a little bit of stability there coming out the backfield. And they also signed Colt McCoy because Daniel Jones last year, if I'm not mistaken, was, I think, the most sacked quarterback in the whole league last year. So you never know if he's going to get knocked out or what's going to go on with him. But again, I just don't think there's going to be a lot there to sort of get them even going toward the playoffs. So again, I'm picking them to go probably 7-9 in the NFC East. Going on to the top two teams, who I think is going to be the heavy hitters in the NFC East, who I think is going to finish second. Again, I'm going to go with the Eagles. The Eagles, again, they were a solid team last year. They did some pretty good draft picks. Again, you got Carson Wentz, but again, we don't know if he's going to be hurt. So they sort of secured up Jalen Hurts in the draft to come back and give him a solid backup and come in and learn. I think that he can really help him in that particular aspect. They picked up the speedster Jalen Reagor at wide receiver. That's going to help him on the offensive side. Defensively, they picked up Javon Hargrave, this defensive tackle, and they also got Jalen Mills as a defensive back. So that should also help them on the defensive side. Running back is still a little questionable with them. They've got a couple right now. I think they got Holyfield's son, Elijah Holyfield. I think they signed him. They got a Boston Scott, who I think they signed. So they still got to make a solid choice of who's actually going to be the running back there to sort of get them going in the right direction. But I do expect them to finish second in the division and possibly could push the Cowboys to see who's going to win the NFC East. Speaking of that, let's go on to the Dallas Cowboys, who I think have done really good in the offseason. They already were solid offensively with the quarterback and the running back and the wide receiver. I think they picked up a gem in the draft and CD Lamb at wide receiver. I really think he's going to be a great addition for them offensively. They also picked up Clinton Dix at safety. Again, he played for Mike McCarthy at Green Bay. I think he's going to come in and do well. We already had a pretty decent defensive side of the ball, but again, they signed veteran Gerald McCoy, who I think can come in and add some more fuel to that fire on defense. We lost Heath at safety, so we picked up Darian Thompson for safety and a couple other people there, but I think he can come in and give us some depth there at safety and come in and do some work. So I'm really expecting them to really come in and just be solid this year. I think Mike McCarthy was the missing link for that team in terms of discipline, holding people accountable, getting in your face if they mess up instead of just, clapping your hands. So I think he's going to bring a whole new atmosphere to this team, which is what they really need. So I do expect them to win the NFC East and make a playoff berth. I'm going to go ahead and say I expect them to go, I say 11-5 and win the NFC East. But again, a lot of good things with the Cowboys going on. Now, the wild card for them, everybody knows they also signed Aldon Smith. He hadn't played in 4 or 5 years. But if he can get back to his early years, hey, that could be a gem, for them also on the defensive side. But got a lot of good pieces. They got to stay healthy and keep everything together. But I think they've got the pieces to get them moving in the right direction. So Cowboys 11-5. I didn't say the Eagles record. I'll go ahead and give them 9-7. Again, the Giants 7-9, and then the Redskins pulling up the rear at 6-10. But that's my breakdown right now of the NFC East.
Good job. Okay, and normally I'm a Cowboy hater, but I'm not going to do it. I think the Cowboys are going to be pretty tough. I do think they're going to make some noise in the East there. And finally, we got a breakdown of the NFC West. Let's go, Chuck. What you got?
NFC West. I think the NFC West is a very, very intriguing division. As I look at the division, it's obvious that San Francisco is the team to beat in that division. But I do believe you got 3 wild cards in there that can pull it out. As I look at I like to look at the scoring, offense, and defense, and that type of thing. On offense, you got 3 very top 10 scoring offenses, with the last place team being Arizona, who I believe made strides in picking up, of course, DeAndre Hopkins, and they lost David Johnson, but I think this is a big boom or bust year for Kenyon Drake. I think in fantasy, I think he could blow it up this year. But on defense, they were 28th in scoring defense. Arizona was, and you're not going to do anything with that. And by picking up Isaiah Simmons in the first round, 6'4", 236, running a 4.4, if he could play anything like his athleticism would suggest, I think he's a perennial Pro Bowler, and he's going to solidify that a good piece of the holes that they have on defense. But at 28th in the league in scoring, you got a few more holes to fill. Other than that, and I do believe the key to their growth is going to be the continuity between Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, and even more importantly, the maturation of Kyler Murray. He's the wild card because I believe he's probably got the highest upside talent out of any quarterback in that division. But that's one of those things you gotta prove it first. So, but I have them holding down last of that division, coming in at 7-9. They also signed the guy Devon Kennard from the Lions that on defense that also could do some things to kind of help make them stronger. At 28th, they're not going to get far, but if they can get somewhere in the middle of the pack and that offense can take the type of strides that I think they're capable of, they could make some noise. But 7-9 is where I have them. I have the next to last place team, surprisingly, probably is Los Angeles Rams, which was a tough one for me. I do believe they have the advantage of continuity, and they were also pretty beat up last year, especially at the receiver position and running back with Todd Gurley not ever really getting to his to top form all year. I do believe they were too good a couple years ago to fall off that far, but I just don't have them above who I think, and I have them coming in at 8-8. And some of the key acquisitions, they were what on defense, they were 19th on defense, but they were 9th on offensive scoring. But they added in the draft, they added a linebacker from Texas Tech and the defensive end from Tennessee, Taylor from Tennessee, and Jordan Brooks from Texas Tech. We'll see what they do. But also a key acquisition for them was Greg Olsen, who I believe when you combine him with that, underneath stuff, and then you got Metcalf, that I believe can easily become the monster of the NFL because he's exceeded my expectations for him already. So if he can keep growing, we are talking about the Rams right now. No, we're talking. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's all right.
I stand corrected. We are talking that was for Seattle.
Yeah.
Are we able to edit this now? No. Okay.
Go ahead. I'll
but I'm sorry. For the Rams, they picked up Cam Akers, and which was big for the running back to replace Gurley. They lost Littleton as well. The Raiders picked him up, but so the linebacker position is going to need to be shored up a little bit. But I think they're solid. They're set. They just haven't been. They're not better than Seattle, who I believe. They picked up Brooks. They picked up Taylor, the defensive man out of Tennessee, and they picked up Greg Olsen to help the quarterback there. And they lost Jadeveon Clowney. In the offensive line, they had a lot of turnover, but they picked up Chance Womack and B.J. Finney to help with the offensive line. So they did address the offensive line. But I do believe one of the keys to their success is going to be the help at the running back position. If they can, the running back, they were playing fourth string running backs last year. But with Russell Wilson behind in quarterback, I don't see how you can't give them at least a shot to win that division. I got them at 10-6, and at the top of the division, I do have San Francisco at the top of the division, and they didn't have a lot of draft picks, but they did get Brandon Ayuk, who I believe is going to improve that wide receiver room even more. They re-signed Eric Armstead, a defensive end, and I think one of the most underrated signings this year for them was Jason Barnett, They signed him on a 1-year prove-it deal. And I think he was one of the best cover corners that the Raiders seemed, when he was playing for San Diego, he just kept getting injured. But prior to his injuries, he was always a dominant shutdown corner that if he can stay healthy, they truly got a gem at that position. Wasn't that big of a offense was a big blow, but I believe that offensive scheme that they have, and they just can, they can just replace those running backs. They got Mostert there. They're gonna that running back room is gonna be solid, especially with the head coaches running that zone blocking scheme.